Hi there, welcome to the channel, welcome back if you're a return viewer. I am Kerry, you're watching the Christchurch Review of Books. Probably said that on the thumbnail that you clicked on, in fact. Anyway, today a quick and nasty maybe review of this book, The Great God Pan by Arthur Machen. Now this book was published in 1894, that's what, 130 years ago, and it was a bit of a controversial one at the time. People didn't really like it, and it made Arthur Machen success get a little delayed to a later period when he was sort of rediscovered in the early part of the 20th century. But he was active at this time and a writer of the fantastical, fantasy, horror, all that type of thing. Now this book is very slim. This copy from Crystal Lake Press, I believe it is, yes, a little publishing house that's republishing a lot of this old stuff and some new stuff. This one clocked in at about 107 pages. You could read this book in one sitting. I read it in two. About 2 weeks after I started it, I got back to it and finished it in one go, basically. It's very simple, and for a book over a century old, it's very, very readable. There's no extravagant language that would puzzle the reader. It's just plain English. Of course, it's a bit dusty and musky phraseology, if you like to call it, but it's nothing that you wouldn't have encountered before if you'd read something like Dracula or the H.G. Wells books around the same time, War of the Worlds, that type of thing. It's sturdy language, but nothing that would confuse the average reader. What's it about? Well, basically, it starts off a kind of mad scientist type of thing. A professor thinks he's learned the secret of seeing beyond the veil of reality to what things are really like. And to do this, you have to physically alter some brain cells. He says he's decades ahead of the leading specialists in the field, other than himself. And he just needs someone to operate on to prove his theory. And to that end, he has adopted a young girl, and lo and behold, she is going to be his patient. Now he's invited a friend along to view this operation, the procedure at his lab. His friend is a little less than happy about things going on, and when the operation is about to get underway, he kind of goes into a little hypnotic reverie himself about something in his past, which will be revealed later in the book. Then, needless to say, things don't go out quite as planned. The operation is not seen as a success. The young girl suffers some malady which is undescribed. She sees something horrific, and has she seen beyond the great veil? Lo and behold, we do not know, but things will continue on from that event. Now, the title, The Great God Pan, is basically what this scientist chap says people will see. They'll see the real mystical reality and see the Great God Pan, and that's where the title comes from. So anyhow, the book picks up after that, years later, after this operation, and it follows several individuals, and it's basically mainly told through like anecdotes told from one person to another, or letters, or tales being told, and it basically builds up a picture of a series of mysterious deaths and misfortunes among the maybe higher society men in London in the years that follow the young girl's operation. And slowly but surely we see a picture evolving that a certain woman is involved in all these misfortunes, and it's not entirely rational what's going on. There's something shocking, something perhaps mystical or magical happening, and a number of people investigate into this and find this woman who, well, that's another issue of this book, and the thing that shocked people at the time. There's like references and allusions to things like prostitution and bordellos, if you want to call them, or whorehouses, if you like. Women offering services to gentlemen in the night and things like that. But it's all carefully worded, so he doesn't actually directly say any of these things, and people at the time wanted to ban this book because of all this apparently shocking stuff, but there's nothing really in the text that points to anything directly. The writer is very careful in what he says, and basically we find the gist of it, that there's this woman around who may be not entirely human or natural, or has powers or abilities to and her effect on men is often fatal. And a lot of the associates of the people we hear quoted to have gone to this woman in times of crisis or need and ended up either dead, mad, or destitute. And basically, they put the picture together. We learn all the pieces of the puzzle, and that's pretty much it. We find out that one man takes direct action against this woman, as you can imagine what happened, and there's a little description at the end of what happens when she left the scene, and that's about the most explicit description in the book, really. I was left sort of puzzled about what the fuss was about, really, but the strength of this book is the atmosphere. When we read the language of it, and the words about these shocking deeds, these shocking actions, the deaths, the murders, the suicides, this book puts on a great sense of fear and dread and somber tone and kind of existential fear, and that's basically the power of this book. It's not going to shock or titillate a 21st century reader, really. It's just the power of the atmosphere that Machen presents to the reader, and it's short and sharp, and you're sort of relieved when it's over. You're glad that it's over and it's sort of resolved, and you're not having to wade through this type of thing anymore. So that's basically my review of The Great God Pan. It's a 130-year-old classic, maybe. Very thin, 107 pages in this edition, possibly even shorter if they make the print smaller, and other publishers probably have. When it was first published, it was published with another book, another story combined with it called The Inner Light. I have not read that. Apparently it follows similar ground, or Machen was into his mystical things, most famous for his story about the spectral bowman, which was turned into basically like an urban legend about World War I, where supposedly soldiers saw bowmen from the Battle of Agincourt fighting for them or something in the trenches, something like that. And Arthur Machen had written a story about that, and people basically believed it was the truth. And that's partly where I had heard his name before in all those dreadful unexplained book type things of the 70s and 80s. So anyway, that is The Great God Pan by Arthur Machen. Good for atmosphere. It's a little slice of what was being written in the latter part of the 19th century. Not as archaic or old-fashioned as you might expect. There we go. Thank you, and we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.